Good. So before we proceed with the substance of what we're doing, um, I just want to mention that during the 3 weeks that I've just been away on retreat, there was a recurring thought, um, which I was able to deal with and plan how to deal with it when I got back, but nevertheless, it was a recurring thought. And it was the thought that I was perhaps being a little bit too tough on Barry last time. Because, yeah, Barry was asking me about Sandhi and all learning all the rules of Sandhi. Do you remember that?
Yes, I do. Yes, but I
Yeah.
don't remember you being tough on me. I mean, you said that, I mean, in effect, you said, well, tough, you've got to suck it up. I understood that.
Yeah, well, that's the point. That's the point. I could have put it in a much better way.
No, it was fine, James. It got the message across. I mean, yes, I had to suck it up. My
So
elderly
I
brain
was,
has been struggling with it since then.
well,
But
I was wondering during that time, now, poor old Barry, spending 3 weeks slaving away over the rules of Sandhi.
I know
It's
Um,
tough love, James.
it is.
what I should rather have said was this, but alas, I didn't. It didn't come into my mind to say it then. It only did later. That first of all, it's virtually impossible for any kind of normal person just simply go through the rules of Sandhi and learn them all. I mean, it's virtually impossible even for complete language nerds like me. I mean, when I was doing Sanskrit, that was one of the things that held me back most. I've got to learn these rules. So I think a much kinder and probably more effective way of advising, particularly Barry, because it's happened with Barry, but I can say this to you all, is we've got the section in Macdonnell's Sanskrit Grammar for Students, which you all have. And it's a section that's 21 and a bit pages long. It starts on page 10, rules of Sandhi or euphonic combination of letters. Um, One good idea is just kind of read through it very gently, not trying to learn it, but to get the broad landscape picture of what's involved. Having got the broad landscape picture, then gradually walk into it and to pick up the details more and more as you go along, rather than this massive effort of just trying to learn all of the rules. Um, In fact, a lot of you have got a lot of the rules already anyway, because we're seeing them so often in the text that we read. And one of the most common ones, for example, is a text. Hang on, let me just stop share for the moment. Is where you have a word ending in aha with visarga, the subdotted h, followed by another word, the next word beginning just with a short ah. Those two, the plus just merge into o. And it's a very common rule that you will all know by now. And the other one is that follows on from that is that where you get a visarga or specifically plus visarga, short visarga, followed by any other vowel, all that happens is the visarga drops. And so buddha uta would be buddha uta. So anyway, so a lot of these things you pick up as you go along. You'll find many quite fiddly rules in these 21 plus pages in Macdonnell, some of which occur quite rarely. So just to assimilate them as you go along, but just having familiarized yourself with the overall landscape from reading Macdonnell's chapter 2. I take it you all have or have access to Macdonald's Sanskrit grammar. That's good. Right. Um, so what I'm going to do now is to just call up the verse 30, 36, 37. Oh, we're on verse 30, 38, aren't we? I hope none of you were thrown by something I saw in my last message to you. I accidentally said chapter 2, verse 38. But I think you probably all got that. That was a pure mistake on my part, chapter 6. So what I'll do, I will just read out this verse and then call it up on a shared screen. Yes, welcome, Paola. Okay. क्लेशोन्मत्ती कृतेष्वेषु प्रवृत्तेष्वात्मघातने न केवलं दया नास्ति क्रोध उत्पद्यते क्रोध उत्पद्यते कथम्. Once more, क्लेशोन्मत्ती कृतेष्वेषु प्रवृत्तेष्वात्मघातने न केवलं दया नास्ति क्रोध उत्पद्यते कथम्. We'll share screen again. Here we are. You just remember a rule of, hopefully you just remember a rule of Sandhi I gave you, that where you get with Visarga, followed by another word beginning with any other vowel apart from a short a, the Visarga drops. That's where you get Krodha Utpadyate. Krodha with a Visarga on its own, the nominative form, is how the word would appear if you saw it on its own. But here you've got the Krodha Utpadyate. That's anger arises. So this sentence here, we could start by looking at the last word first as katham, meaning how. It's welcome, Kath, and it can mean how does it happen that. Here it has more the meaning of how could it possibly happen that. So krodha, anger, utpadyate, anger arises. So krodha utpadyate katham. How does anger arise? It's like a rhetorical question. They're saying it's a stupid thing to allow anger to arise. How could it possibly happen? So kevalam is only. So na kevalam, not only. That's used in Sanskrit exactly the same way as we would use it in English. Daya nasti. Nasti is na asti, of course. So dayanasti, there is no, this would be a sense of compassion or pity, daya. So, katam, how is it that nakevalam dayanasti, not only is there no pity, krodha utpadyate, anger arises. So these emotions that you have towards other people, like pity, anger, the person or thing towards which these are directed are almost always found in the locative case. And that is why we have the locative plural here. Kleshun mati kriteshu, eshu, pravritteshu, atmaghatane. So anger arises towards these people. Eshu means just that's the locative plural of iam meaning, or ayam meaning this, these people. Eshu. So anger arises or towards these people, for these people. Klishun mati kriteshu, who have been made, who have been driven mad by the defilements. So this is klesha unmatta krita. The klesha, the kilesa in Pali, it's the klesha, which means in Buddhist vocabulary, it means a defilement. Unmatta is maddened up, made mad. It's from the root mad. You do talk about, for example, also about an enraged elephant. That would be the same word is typically used, for the enraged elephant. This one suggests when you in fact, this word is so typically used for enraged elephants that this word has been deliberately chosen for when we get wild with anger, we become as dangerous and uncontrolled as the enraged elephant. The root is mad, M-A-D, which I like to think, I'm not sure if it's proven yet, is probably cognate with our English word mad, because the original idea of mad is an exuberant joy in Vedic. And it makes one of its verbal noun forms is mada, and the past participle is matta. So the original meaning was exuberant joy, and it has the meaning of like losing the balance of one's mind, kind of rushing forth into something. We get the well-known Buddhist word in Sanskrit, pramada, in Pali, pamada, which is kind of the very opposite of the condition that when you're being fully wise and mindful. Is the pamada, Sanskrit pramada, is the virtual opposite of it. It's what happens when you lose your mindfulness. You go madding forth, and the mind rushes forth into either what catches its fancy, or indeed what it's averse to. And this is unmatta, like maddened up, rendered mad.
Yeah.
How I translate it here?
James, that's usually the verdict of the coroner to suicide inquest, that the life was taken whilst the balance of mind was disturbed.
I'm sorry, say it again. I didn't catch well.
It's the usual sort of at the inquest, the coroner's verdict. Usually that the person concerned took their own life whilst the balance of their mind was disturbed. Indeed
so, and indeed it's during the days when many years ago, back in the 70s, when I used to earn my living with a wig on, many is the time we've either run that defence or resisted that defence in court, as if somebody, well, wasn't my fault, the devil made me do it, and balance of mind disturbed. I've even had to examine or cross-examine psychiatrists on the point. So yes, we had a number of psychiatrists that I was calling on behalf of the prosecution or defence or cross-examining for the other. But that's
I've done that, James.
You've done forensic psychiatry as well, have you?
Not forensic psychiatry, but I often had to appear in court as a professional witness for.
Okay, right, yeah. Did you enjoy it?
I did.
Yeah. Mm.
I was thinking this morning going through this first James that it's astonishing that the human mind has the capacity, whilst subject to these defilements, to, as it were, plot its own demise,
Mm.
override the basic healthy self-preservation instinct.
Yeah. Now that's and commit suicide
Yeah,
in some cases. Now here, the very point you're making, Chris, is being made by Shantideva in this verse.
yes.
But he's not talking here about physically committing suicide. He's talking about morally murdering yourself by defiled conduct. He's the atmaghatane, which means literally suicide.
Mm.
But he's not talking about a physical atmaghatana, but a kind of moral, spiritual atmaghatana.
Mm.
So kleshunnati krita, made mad by klesha, defilement. Oh, by the way, this where you get a compound, which this is, of which the final member is bhu or a derivative of bhu, or kri or a derivative of kri, like krita, bhuta, and so on, you very often find that the final vowel of the preceding word becomes an e. You would have expected to see unmatta krita, rendered mad, but followed by in compound by kri ubhu, it very often turns to e, unmati kriteshu. This it's a purely phonetic feature. It doesn't alter the grammar. It doesn't mean it's a feminine or something. It's just an odd phonetic feature of Sanskrit. So if it had unmatta kriteshu, it would have exactly the same meaning. Another little bit of sandhi here. This is unmatta. Originally it was ud with a D, udmatta. Now learn this gently and without fear, Barry, that in sandhi, we get one word, and the same applies to prefixes as well, ending in a T or a D, and the next word, or part of the word, as it begins with an M, the T or the D it'll become a nasal, but a nasal of its own class, so it'll just change to N. So unmati. So it's an udmati, unmati. The word klesha, typically translated as defilements in a Buddhist context, in the earlier form of the language, it meant that klesha has a moral sense in Buddhism. In classical Sanskrit, and indeed, as far as I know, in Vedic, it meant that you were afflicted with something. Could be a misfortune has befallen you, for which which is not your fault. So klesha had that meaning. But in Buddhist vocabulary, it has the meaning of a defilement. In fact, you talk about people being klishta in Sanskrit. It means they're afflicted with something. Let me just yeah. So I just call this as Moni Williams here. So it just means the klish, torment, trouble, cause pain, afflict. So something's not necessarily your fault. So the tormenting and molesting. I just want to see pain, affliction. Okay, so klesha then, in regular Sanskrit, pain, affliction, distress, and so on. And in yoga philosophy, it has a more moral tone, ignorance, asmita, egotism, raga, desire, and so on. And then further development with the Buddhists. So it's come to mean from the classical meaning of something that torments or afflicts you, later on in Buddhism to a kind of a moral defilement, which is, of course, how it's used here with in Shantideva. So made mad by the defilements, kleshun mati krita.
James, can I just ask you a basic question, I guess, about the TA ending? Is that indicates a past participle, like krita, made?
Yes, it does. I
Right.
mean, almost always. If you see, in fact, if you have a root plus ta, it's, I think I'm right in saying always, but certainly virtually always, it is a past participle. So
Right.
certainly this is just, so krita here is just a regular past participle, root krit with the subdotted r, just add ta, krita.
Thank you.
Mm.
James, if Shantideva is just talking metaphorically about psychological as death as opposed to suicide, isn't it quite reasonable that if one is on the receiving end of, say, insults, torment, particularly on a daily basis, from people who are suffering from the defilements, that you would quite understandably become quite angry as a result of this perfectly natural kind of response?
So become angry at them or angry with the
At
defilement?
them, at them for their
For the behavior that the defilements have caused them to
yes,
indulge
yeah,
in.
yeah,
Okay, that's exactly the point that
yeah,
Shantideva is making here.
yeah,
He's essentially saying, okay, somebody is afflicted by defilement and is behaving very, very badly.
mm,
And his bad behavior hurts you.
yes,
Now, what Shantideva is saying, we all know that if somebody, some evil person starts to tormenting you, the natural, unenlightened, ordinary response is to respond with, aggression in return, anger. That's the normal response.
yeah.
Okay, that's standard and normal. What Shantideva here is effectively inviting us to do is to say, hang on, chaps. Yeah, we all know that that's how we normally respond, but I'm inviting you, I'm calling you to a higher response. Don't you just respond to anger with anger, taking a back and up a bit. This poor fellow who's tormenting me is himself being tormented by this affliction behind him. In fact, either in this or in a later verse, he's saying, well, look, if you're going to get angry at all, don't get angry at the fellow who's suffering from this affliction that he's turning on you. If you're going to get angry at all, rather get angry at the anger that's afflicting him. So yes, I think we all know too well, Chris, that to get angry at somebody who behaves in an evil way towards you is perfectly normal. Shantideva is inviting us to take the right-hand path, the more difficult path, the path that leads to salvation and nirvana.
That is
Not always easy to do.
yeah. I was just about to say that's a very big ask, particularly if you're having to deal with these people on a practical day-to-day basis.
It is a very big ask, but on the other hand, you can say that the path to enlightenment is a very big ask indeed. Look at what the Buddha had to go through before he got there. Life after life.
Yeah. I read something recently that Eckhart Tolle has been quoted as saying that if you're not enlightened, it's because you haven't suffered enough.
Okay, look, I do have a very considerable respect for Eckhart Tolle. No, I do really. In fact, I was listening to one of his podcasts only this morning. But I think that might be a slight, with the greatest respect to Tolle, that might be a slight over simplification. And probably yes, it's true that we've got so many kleshas inside us that normally we manage to suppress and keep away, and enlightenment will tend rather to involve walking straight into the middle with them and facing the demons and doing battle with your own demons rather than punching somebody else on the nose, hoping you'll deal with his demons in the process. So that's it then. We can, we can turn our disgust and anger not at the poor fellow who is suffering from them, but at that behind it, which is making him suffer. And indeed, not even disgust and anger. We should have a certain amount of pity for him, poor fellow. Okay, big ask, yes, not always easy, but there we are. It's the ideal that we're invited to follow. Another bit of Sandhi, always remember, this is quite easy, that when you get a word ending in an u, short or long, followed by another word beginning with a consonant other than u or u, then it becomes just written as a v. Probably pronounced as a w, but it becomes a consonantal w. Kriteshveshu. And again here, pravriteshu atmaghatane becomes pravriteshvatmaghatane. That's a standard feature, and is exactly the same for a word ending in an e or an e. It becomes a consonantal y before any vowel apart from another e or e. And if, of course, one word ending in u or u meets another beginning with an u or u, they just both merge into one long u, and the same for e. Was that reasonably painless, Barry?
So that was very helpful. Thank you, James.
Okay.
I absorbed that gently.
Okay, just bit by bit.
Yeah.
So, teshu mati kriteshu eshu. The reason, of course, it's in the locative is because we're talking about the daya, pity towards these people, and krodha, anger towards these people. And the people towards whom you feel anger, or thing would be, as I mentioned earlier, expressed in the locative. So atma ghatana is very precisely suicide, kind of self-killing. This pravritteshu, the root vrit, let me just hold up the iPad again. This root vrit, and it makes verb nouns vartana or vritti. It makes its past participle regularly, in other words, just add ta to the root, and which gives us vritta. And we have there's in what's called in Pali the Dhammacakkappavattana Sutta. Here we have pravritteshu. Now, vrit means essentially the original meaning was to roll or to turn. And pravrit, here we've got pravritta, past participle form. Pravritta is to kind of turn towards or proceed in a certain direction. Exactly the same root comes into Latin as vert. So when we are using words like revert, divert, convert, it's that same root. It means to turn, essentially, to revert, to turn back, divert, to turn away. You can be introvert, turned into yourself, extrovert, turned outwards. You convert by either turning one kind of substance into or thing into another, or in a mental sense, bringing somebody around towards your way of thinking in a religious conversion. It's often found with the prefix sam in Sanskrit and Pali. When in the scriptures in Pali we talk about a certain form of conduct either leading to dukkha or leading to sukha. It's samvattati. Now the prefix, the Sanskrit and Pali prefix sam is actually directly cognate with the Latin prefix con, which the basic meaning is with, but it has more than that. So Pali samvattati, Sanskrit samvartate, and the Latin convertere are actually etymologically the same word. So convertere, which we have in English as convert, it means either to alter a substance from one thing to another or to change another person's way of thinking. It has a slightly different meaning in Sanskrit and Pali. It means to be conducive towards something. It leads you towards it. This is that word with the prefix pra, which means forth. Same as the Latin, and Greek pro, meaning forth, out. So the idea of rolling on, adopting a certain course of conduct. So if you're pravritta in a certain course of conduct, it means you're engaged in it and rolling along in it.
James, I'm just remembering that in yoga philosophy, there's the word vritti occurs in the sense of a thought. You've got chitta.
Exactly. Yes. In fact, I think it's at the first or second verse of Patanjali's Yoga Sutra is a yoga chitta vritti nirodha. Is that right?
Yes.
I see Marco nodding. Thank you, Marco. So the vritti, literally the rolling, in other words, just carrying on and on. The chitta vritti is the mind rolling on. And yoga chitta vritti nirodha is the cessation of this rolling of the chitta, or this rolling of the mind. So yes, you were right to bring that up, Barry. And also the word Pali would be vattati, Sanskrit vartate, would just mean proceeding along in life, how you generally live your life. Getting along pretty well, thank you. Kusalam varte, getting on fine. So here we have people who are engaged in this course of conduct, just engaged in, almost you could say bent on rolling along, rolling forth with their atmaghatana, with their self-murder, self-killing. Incidentally, we have the name of the sutta, the Dhamm in Pali, Dhammacakkappavattana Sutta, which in Sanskrit would be Dharma Chakra Pravartana Sutra. So Dharma Chakra, the Dharma wheel. The Pravartana is this rolling it, literally rolling it forth, often translated as setting in motion. So the sutta on the setting in motion, the Pravartana in Pali, Pravartana in Sanskrit, of the wheel of the law. It's a pity that we don't have to provert in Latin or English. I checked in my Latin dictionary, there doesn't seem to be a provert, but I think it's a word we can invent. Marco, if somebody said provertere in Italian, would you kind of understand what he meant?
Yeah, it makes me think of, in English, revolting, or maybe also revolution, because in Italian we say ribaltare.
Ribaltare, okay, yes, yeah.
It's something which turning itself around, for instance.
Yeah, right, yes. But we don't have it with a pro, do we? And I don't think it exists in Latin either. But it jolly well ought to exist. And I feel like inventing the word for Buddhist purposes, to provert, pravartati.
Like Dante Alighieri in the Divine Comedy. inventing new words out of the roots.
Good for Dante Alighieri. I'm all for inventing new words, particularly from the pen or tongue of somebody of his stature. Oops. Oh, my iPad's going funny. Okay, here we are. It's back again. So these people are pravritta. Notice here that pravartate, it's an atmanepada word, would be used as an intransitive. You're rolling along. As a transitive would be pravartayati, pravarteti in Pali. Notice that many words that have an intransitive meaning, like gam gata, agam agata, vritta, the past participle, it doesn't have a passive meaning. It just means that a person is engaged on that course. Avidya gata, literally ignorance, gone to ignorance, and it's in the past participle, it retains its intransitive meaning.
James, a quick question.
Please, Paola.
That verse, that Buddhist verse, gate gate paragate parasamgate, is it the same as this gatane? Is it the same word or a different one?
So I didn't well catch how you said it.
Gate gate paragate.
Ah, no, okay.
Yeah. Is it because it's gone, and
it
so is gatane here the same, or is it a different word?
Oh, it's entirely different word. The gate parang gate parasang gate. That is from gata, from the root gum, to go. Past participle gata. And this is actually the feminine vocative form. Gate, gate, oh wisdom. Gate, gate, gone, parasangate. Wisdom gone beyond. This is this ghatana here is, let me call iPad again. It doesn't look like it on the surface. In fact, it's from the root han. In the more primitive form of the language, it was in fact ghan. And in most forms of the verb, the g has become h. It happens in a few verbs. Sometimes both forms exist in parallel. You can talk from, for example, we have the root br, meaning to carry, and also in parallel with it you get a hri, to take. But originally they're the same verse, the same word, but the b was softened to a h. But this han and ghan, in several forms of the verb, the g form comes back. One of them is a causative form, ghatayati, meaning to it's the causative form of to kill, means to put to death, or to have somebody put to death, and it makes its verbal noun in ghatana. It is an awkward little verb. It's a bit slippery. It's in fact it's a class 2 verb, which means it makes it's not hanati but hanti. And in Pali you can have hanati, but not in Sanskrit. And it makes its plural. It should be hananti. I put the asterisk to show that's a deliberately incorrect form. If it were regular, it would be hananti, they kill, but it's not. It is gnanti. And it has various other anomalies as well. And if anyone asks me, why does this verb behave like that? well, with apologies for putting it this way, but it's just a little bastard. That verb, honestly, it behaves in a really difficult manner. Curiously enough, though, this g, I think I may have mentioned it before because I seem to remember Marco was there, but it's in Latin fendere, defendere. So the g became a f in Latin, as it sometimes does. So when we use and so defendere in Italian, we say to defend, because han, by the way, gan, mostly it means to kill, but an earlier meaning of it is simply to strike. So if you defend yourself, you strike somebody away, defendere, to strike away. And fencing as well.
The word fend off, to fend off an attack.
To fend off, that's exactly the same. And our word for a fence. Your garden fence is from that same root, it's because you keep intruders and wild animals out. It makes its, from han, fruit han, it makes its past participle slightly irregular. It drops the n. So it becomes hatta. So how does it turn up in English? It turns up, it changed over the centuries, millennia, before it became fendere in Latin. Fencing is another one. You're defending yourself by fencing. It turns up in English as to hit. In fact, the past participle hatta, hanti hatta, it turns up in English as hit. And that was the original meaning, to strike at something, to hit. One of the hindrances, if you are udhata, I'll write it correctly in a moment, it means you literally hit up in an agitated state. Another bit of sandhi here, where you get a stop consonant here, d, followed by a h, when they meet, it doubles, it becomes udhata. So udhata, in English, we use the old form of the verb het. You get het up. So when we talk about being het up, agitated, overexcited, this is exactly the same structure as the Sanskrit udhata. And you can make an abstract noun out of it by vriddhi of the first syllable, o, and the final a becomes ya. So udhatya is het-upness, the state or quality of being udhata. And this is a very well-known word in Pali, one of the 5 hindrances to meditation, and by regular phonetic mutation, it becomes udhatya in Pali. So udhatya in Sanskrit, udhatya in Pali. So when we're looking at the names of the 5 hindrances in Pali and we see udhatya, far from being a random series of noises you have to learn, it's in fact directly related to our English het up, but with a slightly different meaning, but not a totally different meaning, because your udhata and your het up is broadly the same meaning in Sanskrit, Pali, and in English.
Could I just check something, James? When the ud plus hata, when that changes through sandhi to udhata, is it D then an aspirated D, or is it 2 Ds then a ha?
It is a D followed by aspirated D.
Right, that's it. Thank you.
In fact, we don't need to note it when we are transliterating into the Roman script, because it never happens in Sanskrit or Pali that you have a stop consonant. That's the g, d, d, ch, b, followed by a separate H consonant. It doesn't happen. They always merge. And so it becomes, it's an aspirated D, and is so written in the Devanagari script as well. So in fact, Uddhata would be written like that. To make it more clear, I'll write the d with a virama, so you've got ud. Normally we'd write it the way I've written here, but ud atta, and this, what I've written here, that's the aspirated the. The reason we don't bother to make the distinction when we're transliterating is that I say you could never get a the followed by a separate h in Sanskrit. It can't happen by the rules of the phonetics. It can't happen. They're always, if they come together, as here, udhata, it always merges to make the consonant as aspirated. So that's why there's never any ambiguity.
Thank you.
Right. Incidentally, where you see something, that rule, oops. Pen's gone funny, sorry. Amhakam, for example, that rule only applies to the stops. That's the g, ch, ta, and the allied forms. Whenever you've got a liquid like a m or a r or a l followed by an h, the liquids can't be aspirated, so it is a m followed by a separate h. So this would be written in Devanagari. Oops, pen's going funny again. Oh, sorry, try and fix it. So we get the m, we start the m, and a separate h. So you see the m and the h written there as separate letters. I mean, they're joined together in writing, but they are separate letters. Also, no, from arhati, arhant. In Pali, we tend to say arahant, but that's a feature of Pali. In Sanskrit, would be arhant, arhantam. Again, written as a separate r. So before we do recitations, are there any comments or queries on this verse?
Could you just tell me again the ending, the kriteshu, that's locative, did you say? That's locative plural.
That's right, yes.
Yeah.
In fact,
gatane, that's singular locative, is it?
It is locative singular. There's a the nominative, it's a neuter noun. The nominative form would be ghatanam. This is ghatane, but the reason it's locative is because they are pravritta in it. That's what they're engaged in. So the locatives here, kleshami kriteshu, eshu, pravritteshu, the reason for those three locatives is these are the people towards whom either our pity or our anger are directed. That accounts for the locative there. What accounts for the locative here is that if you're engaged in something, that's in the locative too. So they are pravritta maghatane. They are engaged in, rolling along in suicide.
Right, subtle.
So there's two sets of locatives, they're locatives, but for different reasons.
If
Please, Marco.
If we could punctuation in Sanskrit, which would be very helpful for us, for reading. There are two different questions in the second line. In a way, it's like na kevalam daya nasti, and then this is the first question, and the other one is kroda utpadayati katam.
Mm-hmm. So what was your question, Marco?
Sometimes I think it could be useful to reflect on where to put the question mark. For instance, we know that when we find the katam, there is an interrogative sentence following or preceding, like in this case. But sometimes there can be two of them, like in this case.
Okay, I think actually it's just one question. I mean, I interpret it in this way. We see these people who are driven mad by the defilements, and not only do we not feel pity for them, we even feel anger towards them. So I think this is katam. How is it? How does it happen that not only kevalam, not only do we not feel pity, we even feel anger? So I think it's kind of one question, a single question or a single sentence, to use the terminology of Western grammar, a single sentence containing not only but.
Yes, you're right.
That's my
kevalam.
Yeah. So kevalam, but so in English, kevalam. In English, we not only but also. We would tend to use that that pair, but it's not necessary in Sanskrit. Na kevalam daya nasti krodha utpadyate. Now that you mentioned the interrogative, I see, Marco, that I have failed to put a question mark in the translation. I should correctly have put a question mark. Is this some? I think I will make a note to put this in the text that I'm currently dealing with now. By the way, for those of you who may be unaware, the Buddhist Society will shortly be publishing effectively what is this translation or annotated translation of the Bodhicharyavatara, and with Marco has been very busy on going through it and producing notes and annotations to it. So Marco and I, as a joint effort, are quite close to finalizing the text that should be published. Hopefully even this autumn. It'll take me a little time to do it. So okay, I need to.
Thanks, James. That's great. What format is that going to be in?
Marco will know better than I. Is it going to be published as a printed book, Marco, or will it be online, or both? Do you know?
Oh, I think that they haven't decided yet. For sure, the printed book,
right,
and possibly also an online version.
Okay, and, right, yeah.
Of course, it's much more beautiful here because we have also, like in the 7th chapter, all the understanding of the wars, which is really intriguing.
Of course, yes.
It would be nice to have it for all the chapters, but anyway, it's a beautiful translation. I think it's a way of delving into this marvelous work, which is not possible to do with other translations available.
Indeed not, no. So they'll just hopefully it will be for the Hitaya Sukhaya of mankind, for the benefit and happiness of mankind. So watch this space; it won't be too long before it's out. I learnt, thanks to Marco, a most wonderful new word, because Marco was just sent back, the text had been back and forth between Marco and me, and he sent it back to repristinate the text. And I thought, what a beautiful word. I've never encountered this word. I actually checked it in English. It does exist as a rather rare old word, but I've started using it now with people, thanks to Marco. In Italian, ripristinare means to put something back or put something into a pristine condition, the condition where it's good to go, fit to be shown. So thank you for that word, Marco. I'm enjoying using it.
Incredible, sometimes by chance.
Well, I guess a normal word to use it in Italian.
Very much used, yes.
I mean, to put something in good order, to produce a fair copy of it. I wish we had that word in English, but I'm fighting my own little battle to put it into to get it more used in English. Incidentally, on the slightly light-hearted note, there's another Italian word I wish we could had in English. It's we say to forget, but in Italian, dimenticare. Now, dimenticare is very expressive because you have la mente, which is the mind. So dimenticare means you demind it, you put it out of your mind. So I can carry on with trying to get repristinate more used, but I don't think I'll get very far to dementicate something. I'll try. I might have a try.
In English, you have a remind to get reminded, which is more or less the same root, but
it's the same root, just to remind, but we don't have to demind.
Yeah,
we have dementia, which of course is an entirely different thing. Sorry, I interrupted somebody there. Somebody was speaking.
No, I was just going to say that we do use pristine condition a lot.
We do, yeah. Oh, certainly, yes. I mean, pristine condition as an adjective, certainly that's normal. But to make it into a verb, to repristinate, that was the great contribution that Marco had brought in from Italian.
Funny.
Okay, so I'll read it through once more, and then we could try a couple of recitations of it. So, kleshun mati kriteshveshu pravritteshvatmaghatane na kevalam dayanasti krodha utpadyate katham. By the way, utpad just means to arise. Many of you will be familiar with the Pali paticca samuppada, the conditioned co-arising, which in Sanskrit would be pratitya samutpada. It's from the root pad, meaning simply to go. It's from that same root that we get the word ada, meaning a foot, that with which you go, and it's pada, which has come into English via the Germanic line as foot. So our English word foot is from the same origin as pada, utpada. We get, do you say topodi in modern Greek, Paola? Topodi, thank you, meaning the foot. And if you get 8 of them, you're an octopodi, which comes into English as octopus. You've got 8 of them. And it's, of course, il pede, pes pedis, il pede, and it was a pedal, something you operate with your foot. So the utpada literally means just upgoing, so arising, coming into existence. So we have it in the form of the pratitya samutpada, the mutually conditioned samutpada, co-arising, things arising with each other. But here it's in a more ordinary sense of anger arising, coming into existence. So before we do the recitals, are there any comments or queries on this verse? Okay, so Madeleine, you're first on my screen. Would you like to have a go at it?
Yes, certainly. Kleshon matikretesh veshu pravritesh vatma pravrittesh vatmagatane na kevalam daya nasti krodha utpadyate katam.
Okay, very nice.
Thank you.
What I often used to do when I was getting my tongue into a twist over these long compounds, particularly some pravrteshvatmaghatane, just even in speech, divide it up into its component parts, get the tongue roll, pravritta, pravrteshu, atmaghatane. Once you can say pravrteshu atmaghatane, then make the transition to the correct form, pravrteshwatmaghatane.
Yes,
In my early stage of Sanskrit learning, I found that quite a
it's
useful way of
easier
doing
the
it.
way you explain it. Can I repeat it?
Please do, Madeleine, by all means.
So it's pravriteshvatmagatane.
Yes.
It's a good way to
exactly
to untwist.
So to untwist the tongue,
untwist the tongue.
we know our English expression, a tongue twister. But there's one important thing to remember. If you write the words, if you take out the sandhi, it's pravriteshu atmaghatane, and you can see how the u then becomes a w when it's merged with the next word. You've got to be careful that it's not two syllables, shu a, it's a single syllable now, shwa.
Yes, shwa.
So if you pronounce it pravrteshu atma is actually wrong. It's got to be pronounced. You can distinctly hear the w, but it's a consonantal w, and there is just a single syllable. Pravrteshu atmaghatane.
Yes.
Good. Okay, thank you. Barry, would you like to have a go?
Yeah. Kleshon mati kriteshveshu pravriteshvatmaghatane na kevalan daya nasti krodha utpadyate katam.
Barry, when did you start learning Sanskrit?
Well, the first time I joined this group.
Because I think you could get the medal for the most improved recruit. Because when you recite now, it really comes out with a degree of assuredness and fluency.
Oh, thank you, James.
wonderful to hear, Barry. So Anne, your turn now.
Kleshon mati kritesh beshu pravriteshvatmagatane na kevalam daya nashti krodha utpadyate katam.
Okay, very nice. So there was a moment of hesitation.
Yeah.
Yeah, you didn't pronounce it as two syllables, and you did pronounce it correctly, but there was I noticed you just had to gather the next bit of energy to make that leap. So can you just say once more? Pravriteshvat maghatane. Pravriteshvat maghatane.
Pravrishteshvat magatane.
Pravriteshvat maghatane. Okay, thank you.
Pravrishteshvat magatane.
Try once more. Pravriteshu. Say just on its own. Pravriteshu.
Pravitreshu.
Okay, now. Pravriteshvat maghatane.
Pravishteshvat magatane.
Okay, what you said made sense, but it's not what you said. Pravishta, which would mean entered, but this is pravrita, which is embarked in. Not to worry though. What you said still makes sense. Okay then, thank you, Anne. Chris, would you like to have a go?
Kleshomati Kriteshweshu Prateshwat Magatanai.
Remember, Gatane, it's an A sound. Yeah.
Na Kevalam Daya Nasti Kroda Upadyate Katam.
Okay, very good. One thing there, we write this as the anuswara here, that's the subdotted M, because it's the grammatical ending M followed by another word beginning with a consonant. What happens there, although it's written as a subdotted M, and in Devanagari is written, you see that dot above the letter there, that's a L, and that dot above it means it becomes a Lum.
Yeah.
When we pronounce it, it comes out at the same point of articulation as the following consonant. So we write Kevalam Daya, but we pronounce Kevalam Daya. It's pronounced as if it were an N. Kevalam Daya. So is that clear there?
Sorry, I tried to pronounce it as Lang in the Roman with the Anuswara. So I meant to say Lang Daya.
It should be in Pali. The Anuswara is often pronounced as a ng sound. Would be Nakevalang.
Lung, yeah.
But that's a feature of Pali, especially Pali as pronounced by the Thais. In Sanskrit, we've got a little bit careful. It would be Nakevalan Dayanasti. Also, in Pali, a word like katam, this is Sanskrit, and it ends in an M, not anuswara, full M. You see, as here, katam, there's the M with the virama under it. In Sanskrit, katam, distinctly with an M sound, exactly like our English M.
Yeah, katam.
In Pali, they would tend to pronounce it as katang, with a ng sound.
Yeah.
I think that's a feature that has crept into the way we pronounce Pali in Europe, because it's a feature of the way that particularly that the Thais pronounce it. I'm fairly convinced, I don't know, what evidence do I have? Not much really, but the Buddha would have pronounced that word katam with an M, which is how it would be universally pronounced in northern India, well, in the Ganges Valley, where these languages developed. Okay, fine. Thank you, Chris.
Right.
Alden, round to you.
Kleshon mati Kriteshveshu Pravriteshvat Mangatane. Sorry, Prabhriteshvat Magatane.
Mhm.
Nakevalandaya Nasti. Krodharutpadyate Katam.
Yeah. Where have you been over the last few weeks? Because there was less Derbyshire in that than I sometimes hear from you.
Well, I'm just over the border in Staffordshire, so maybe that makes all the difference.
Ah, okay. Maybe you should veer a bit towards the Staffordshire accent. This one thing, I seem to detect a bit of hesitation. Kleshon mati kriteshveshu. Remember, you tend to pronounce it as one flowing word. Kleshon mati kriteshu.
That was the aspiration, but it's a bit of a tongue twister, isn't it, really?
Kleshon mati kriteshu. It is a bit of a tongue twister, yes. Okay then, thank you, Paladin. Marco, we're round to you.
Klesham mati kriteshu eshu pravriteshu atmagatane na kevalam dayanasti kroda utpadyate katam.
Thank you, Marco. I don't know whether it was deliberate, but I detected that this "the" here was almost pronounced as a separate syllable, almost kleshun mati kriteshu, almost as if it was two syllables.
Yeah.
Maybe it was just my hearing.
Yes. Sometimes I try to read it. I suppose that in a way we have also to help the listener to understand the sandhi, the separation, the padacheda.
Okay, I entirely understand that. It would help the listener. In fact, there's a problem you have no problem. Sorry, a sound you have no problem with in Italian, because you say guardare, like a guardare, don't you? Comes out exactly like a gua. So no, that's exactly the same feature here. Okay, wonderful. Thank you. Now, would you like to have a go? No compulsion if you don't feel like it.
Did you ask me, James?
Yes.
Oh, okay, sorry. Okay, sorry. Okay. Yeah,
If you
I'll
feel
give it a
like
try.
it.
Yeah, I'll give it a try.
Give it a try.
Kleshon mati kreteshweshu pravriteshwat magatane nakevalam dayanasti kroda utpadyate katam.
That came out very, very nicely indeed, Paola. Nicely done. Nicely done. Thank you. Now, Kath, are we going to hear a chanted version from you?
Yes, okay. Kleshon mati kriteshveshu pravriteshvat maghatane nakevalandayanasti krodha utpadyate katam.
That was beautiful. That was beautiful. Thank you, Kath. And finally, Sinhala, the Sri Lankan style from Sri Animala.
Klesho mattiktesveshu pravrittesvatmagatane na kevalam dayanasti krodha utpadyate katam.
That was very nice, Shreya Nimala. Have you been practicing as well? Because sometimes you're a little bit hesitant when you're reciting a verse, but this came out very nicely indeed.
I was reading the Devanagari. It's very easy for me to read that.
Right. Okay. And do you find it easier to read it off the Devanagari?
Yes.
Okay, yeah. Okay, fine. Okay, wonderful. So we'll wind up there. 7 minutes past 3. So I will say thank you for joining me, and I'll see you well next time round. I look forward to being with you again then.
Is that in September, James, the next one?
No, I think, are we meeting in, I have a feeling that we're meeting in 2 weeks. I'm carrying on right up to the end of July. Hey, let me just double check what I.
23rd, I think.
It should be in. So good. Oh, I've lost it. Here we are.
22nd.
Hang on. Let me just get this. Today is the 8th. 8 and 14 are 22.
22nd.
22nd. I'm just wondering what I'm sorry. I failed. I tell you what happened. I'll tell you what happened. No, we're meeting again on the 15th, in 1 week from today. I'll tell you why we're doing that is because the Tuesday and Wednesday after that, I will be attending an event in Sheffield, which will take a good part of. I won't be back until the afternoon of the 22nd, which is why I am giving a lesson then. I'll mention it in my notes to you. A week today at the same time, and also 2 weeks after that on the 29th. So there will be two more before we wind up for this summer. So
Is next week, James, verse 39? Because the email had us going to Bhagavad Gita.
it's open and fluid. I mean, we could go on to verse 39 or we could go on to the Bhagavad Gita. Okay, I'll take a quick poll. Hands up anyone who wants to go on to verse 39. 1, 2, okay. Hands up everyone who'd rather than go on to the Bhagavad Gita. Oh, I'm afraid the Bhagavad Gita wins. Okay.
Okay. Okay.
So Bhagavad Gita wins. In fact, I've got a graduation ceremony in Sheffield. My son is graduating as a doctor, finally. In case you're all wondering what an old man like me, nearly 82, is doing with a son who's just graduating, the answer is I was 52 when he was born, and he's taken a hell of a long time to get to the point of finally graduating as a doctor. So there will be a
Congratulations.
Thank you very much.
Yes.
Thank you.
Congratulations, James.
Thank you. Thank you. So anyway, I look forward to seeing you. I'm glad you reminded me about that. I look forward to seeing you in 1 week from today, and I'll put a note about it in my standard email to you.
Thank you,
Thank you so
James.
much.
Okay, great.
Thank you.
Okay. Thank you very much. Thank you.
Bye.
Thanks.
Bye.
Bye now.
Bye.
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 Bye.